Hello and welcome to MySecurityTV and our Tech and Sec Weekly. My name's Chris Cubbage. I'm the Executive Editor with MySecurity Media, and this is our Friday afternoon edition. Thank God it's Friday, and normally we do Friday mornings, but Friday afternoon definitely feels differently. So we'll be knocking off shortly, and thanks for tuning in. And let us know where you're tuning in from. This is going to be a wrap-up with Michelle Price, the CEO with AustCyber, and they just have literally, like within the last half an hour, concluded the Australian Cyber Week, a week of events, obviously nationally, online, and also within a couple of physical events as well. So we'll hear from Michelle shortly, and we're going to be looking at the Dragon's Den. They had a funding debate last night, and then also we'll get a wrap-up of their 2021 and then also an outlook for 2022. So stay with us, and as you do, let me just check on our streams. We should be streaming on LinkedIn, Facebook, and on YouTube. We cover off on aerospace and space, defense and national security, cybersecurity and critical technology, and cities and infrastructure. We may go for a good half an hour. Me and Michelle have said this a few times in the past, but around maybe half an hour to 40 minutes we'll be going. But otherwise, if you've got any questions or feedback on the Australian Cyber Week, definitely fire them in as well. And as I go through, I've got a couple of giveaways today also. This will also be released out as a series on our Cyber Security Weekly podcast. Just dropped this morning. We did an interview yesterday. She's in Germany, Eva Maria Elia. She's the Senior Director for Worldwide Channel Sales with Lookout, looking at more from the MSP and the MSSP market and the opportunities that Lookout has as being a channel partner with Lookout. But obviously we focused on the Asia Pacific region as well. So well worth having a look. And if you're interested as a reseller, definitely have a look at Lookout. Also yesterday, and this is now available on demand on our marketplace, we did a session with Motorola Solutions and a deep dive into their safety reimagined ecosystem. Very interesting technology, and that obviously dives through their detect, analyze, communicate, and respond platform, and also their Ion Motorola device, which is a mix of a radio and a smart device. So again, also very interesting. We've just released our Australian Cyber Security magazine. We've got a good coverage there of Australian Cyber Week, so check that out. Our podcast of the week is Critical Info Infrastructure Protection in Singapore with Lim Tin Chin, who is with the Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, and that is on the back of their Cyber Security Strategy 2021 in Singapore. Now, this is one of the giveaways. I've got 2 books left from Lisa Sisson. So if you want to get a book, fire in a chat, let us know that you're listening, and we'll send one out. That's Risk Starts and Ends with People. And we've focused our interview with Lisa on her chapter, Reputation, Revenue, and Risk. So I can't believe I've got 2 left. So all you have to do is let us know where you're listening from, and you'll get a free book. And my other giveaway, I'll keep that handy for maybe a gift. It's a PDZ camera from D-Link if you want to get a camera. Now, starting on Monday, we've got a panel session, 10 o'clock on Monday morning as part of the Australian Space Industry Infrastructure Technology and Investment Festival of Space. We've got over 40 speakers, 17 events from 4 different countries. So please check that out. And I just want to quickly run through the panel sessions. This is Monday morning, and we're going to be looking at national space capabilities. We've got Inmarsat, the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, SmartSat CRC, the South Australian Space Industry Centre, and obviously with us here at MySecurity Media. We're just finalising a couple of more speakers for this one, but this is AI and space robotics on Wednesday, and also Next Gen Space next Friday. We have a panel session, and that's with the Australian National University and their researchers there. So that's just a very small hint of what we've got going on throughout November. So check that out. That's a city.space. Also in November, on the 17th and 18th of November, the Security Exhibition and Conference. Had they only stayed a physical event, they might have made it, but obviously got delayed from July. So this is a virtual conference with ASIAL, the Australian Security Industry Association Limited. Thank you very much to our series sponsors, Secure ID and RSA Business. Thank you to our marketplace sponsors and partners at the moment as well. Too many to mention, given it's a Friday afternoon and Michelle is waiting patiently. And if you want to support the channel, check out our Cyber War series on the MySecTV.shop. That's it from us on the marketplace. And let's bring on Michelle Price, the CEO with AustCyber. Michelle,
Good
thanks for
afternoon,
joining
Chris.
us.
Thank
Great to have you back. And this
so
is a
much.
good trifecta. We've had you on probably 3 times in the last month, I think, which is great.
Yeah.
So we'll put all these together in one podcast, I think, back to back as we do. But you've literally finished Cyber Week. I can't remember how many events you guys had. How many did you end up having? What's a good wrap up?
34. 34 as a mix of in-person and online events this year. It was massive.
Wow. Now, what we wanted to cover off, we've got a number of articles on the Australian Cybersecurity magazine. We were proud to be media partners along the way. And we were going to, let's start off with the debate, because then we can finish off. I can share that link out. We did an article on the Dragon's Den from Wednesday, but the debate actually sounds just as interesting, and I didn't catch it. So it's available on demand, but you still have to buy a ticket, right?
That's right.
You're not giving everything away.
Not giving everything away for free. You do need a ticket to get access to it on demand, but you know, us at AustCyber here, if you wait your turn kind of thing, you'll find it released, but not for a while yet. Not for a while yet.
Good. Well, look, walk us through the debate and the premise. It's the Great Australian Funding Debate, over to you.
So the funding debate, we focused on whether or not Australia is doing enough around sovereign procurement of cybersecurity capabilities. So it was a traditional style debate, Chris. So we had an affirmative team, a negative team. I was the moderator, and so as the moderator, I was not allowed to interject. It was an incredibly interesting way to do a conversation around the fact that, you know, we are seeing some movement in sovereign capability being procured by big end of town as well as governments, but we're really not seeing enough yet. And so the affirmative had to argue that we are seeing enough and that we can leave it up to market forces. We had Matthew Wilson from Pen 10, Susie Jones from Cinch Security, and Jackie Curnow from EY having the tough job of being on the affirmative team. And then on the negative team saying, of course, no, we can't leave it up to market forces, and no other Western country does leave it up to market forces for something so important as cybersecurity. We had Tim Watts, the Shadow Minister for Cybersecurity and Communications, Mo Hanku from DTEC Systems, and Scott Handsaker from CyRise. It was awesome, Chris. It was so good. And the humour and sledging that was going on, like a traditional style of debate, my cheeks are still recovering. It really was a fantastic event.
Did you flip a coin between the affirmative and the other? Because it sounds like you've got the sort of startups there trying to argue an affirmative case when they're going, hey, hang on, there's not enough support.
That's right. That was where the hilarity came into it. We actually put it out to the audience through a poll to vote who should win the debate. As we know from a traditional style debate, if we were doing it in person, the audience would clap, and whoever has the loudest clap would give the audience the win. But we actually did it through the online poll, and at 72% of the audience's vote went to the negative team. So,
right. We won't blame Jackie there, though.
That's right.
G'day, Jackie, if you happen to be listening.
That's right. And Jackie did a great job. She really did. And, you know, we also had audience members through Slido pretending to be politicians from around the world. We had our Prime Minister tuning in from COP26. We had, you know, President Trump dialing in from wherever he is today. Nice. It was hilarious. The ghost of Bill Shorten turned up. It was awesome. But the serious side of it, Chris, was that the intent with the debate is that the good team here at AustCyber is going to do up a short package around the digital aspect of it. And we're going to actually be sending that through to every member of parliament across the 3 levels of government. We're also going to be sending it to the chairs and CEOs of all of the ASX 200 listed companies in Australia, with the key direct point that sovereign cybersecurity capability does need to be part of the mix of procurement that every organisation needs to do, and that we believe as a facilitator of that at AustCyber, we can open up a conversation on why now is the time for us to really double down on that.
We talked about on Monday, there's a new fund, the Innovation Fund for training. Do you think we need to have a revisit? Because AustCyber had your fund as well. And I haven't seen too much funding for startups. And it was something I was going to sort of ask you around the Dragon's Den. Just checking we've still got you, Michelle. Audio? No? Let me know if you come back or if it's my end. G'day, Tom. Welcome to MySecTV.
The joke of internet
That's
being
okay.
So Tom's now going to quickly fix that.
There you
So
go. Stay with
so
us.
there we go.
Oh, that's a great pick. I'm going to try and capture that. Tom's made it onto MySecTV. There you go. You said don't steal your staff. Too late.
Well, look at how quickly we can adjust here.
Beautiful. I like it. Nice backup.
Pretty
but
well
anyway,
done, wasn't it?
I forgot what I was going to say. The Dragon's Den. Yeah. So, yeah, you had your fund. There hasn't been too much sort of, not that I'm aware of, too much funding. It definitely seems to be around the skills development and that type of thing. Do you think we've gone full circle now? We need to have new startup funds coming through. You're going to have to potentially, I'm sorry to say, but potentially pull AustCyber out of Stone and Chalk, make it back into a sort of a standalone again. Yeah, what's your status? Because that was a question I had out of the Dragon's Den is, any outcomes from those? You had those 10 startups there. How much funding and support they need?
Yeah, so look, I think we are really at the precipice of needing to accelerate now the industry development side of the picture. And I am the first person to say, look, government should not be involved if government's not needed, but government is still needed. And actually the government and the opposition are, they've got nuances around their policies, but really it's in terms of needing to provide focused and targeted, support to making sure that we continue to produce world-leading capabilities. And a lot of that does come from startups and making sure that the best of those startups become scale-ups. There is an agreement that that's needed. And so it's now about the how. We've proven, of course, in AustCyber that our projects fund has had a massive impact in the economy, not just to be able to deliver those capabilities, but also to deliver jobs creation in the industry, but also across other industries as that horizontal that we are. And so I'm really hopeful at the moment that we will start to see more things come through across the spectrum, including, of course, that's, Cyber Skills Innovation Fund. That will see sort of probably more of the matching arrangement. And of course, that's what the AustCyber Projects Fund was. I don't think we're going to see any more of the sort of just 100% direct funding come through. And in many respects, we don't need that kind of funding anymore. We need to see the matched funding as the commercialisation piece, but then we also need to dial up the procurement side, which is, of course, why we did do the debate, but backed up by Dragon's Den, where we continue to showcase and provide opportunities for startups to be able to talk about what their capabilities are and how they do compare to other parts of the world as well as competitors here at home. And one of the great things that I can report, Chris, exclusively for you is that every single one of those 10 companies that pitched on Wednesday at Dragon's Den have had follow-ups from potential customers and or investors. So we know that the event format works and the people that were in the audience are the right kinds of people. We now just need to scale that out and make sure that, we've got dozens and dozens of companies seeing those kinds of outcomes.
Yeah, I think it is about giving them a voice. And I think the startups have also changed a little bit because you don't get the pure sort of cybersecurity startup. It's more potentially around the services as well. The other one I wanted to sort of highlight was, say, DroneSec and how they're applying sort of cybersecurity to our vertical. And maybe that is also needed as well. We talk about a City Our Space festival. There's a lot of cybersecurity requirements in space. There's even satellite cybersecurity standards and the like. So I think those verticals we're going to need to start to lift, particularly on other critical technologies and how they apply cybersecurity. And I think that requires a little bit more support because it's taken a while for, say, DroneSec to build and find its real feet across the market. But you can see it's on a winner there.
Absolutely. And, I called out in that session that my favourite of the day, because as the moderator, I get to, do my pick. There was the audience pick and then there was also the judges pick. But my pick was DroneSec, the way in which we can showcase now that the market for cybersecurity products and services in Australia has grown so much in the past 2 years in particular that specializations into verticals is where we're now starting to head. And when we see the onboarding around advanced machine learning, and of course we are now talking about what the world would look like with genuine artificial intelligence, as well as, of course, starting to be prepared for quantum technologies. The collision of AI, quantum and cyber is happening already. and how that applies to areas like space, like the health industry. But within the health industries, there's so many segments. There's, not just med tech, biotech, there's also the aged care components, there's hospitals. We had the hypothetical, of course, around that. So absolutely, I think we'll start to see the next wave of startups in the pipeline for the industry start to specialize in particular verticals.
Yeah, I mean, we're still hearing a lot on OT and then supply chain, but I think that's potentially untapped yet. Even though I always think, oh, why haven't we already done it? So it's one of those things. I'm still hearing a lot of noise around the OT, but as IoT expands, I think OT will become something that you do need to specialize in and be cross-skilled across operational tech and IT. I want to come back to, you're going to write to all the ministers on the outcomes.
Yeah.
What do you anticipate to see? Do you think, is it, how do you see this working in terms of that sovereign capability? And the words escaping me right now in terms of, the approach that we would take, it'll come to me, but how do you see it potentially working? Do they have to have a mandate that they have to use a percentage of Australian technology? How do you see it?
Yeah, so I think it's a mix of two things. One is, I think we do need to have some requirements provided by particularly government, but we could also see larger corporates go in this direction as well. And the reason why we'd see corporates go in that direction is to assure trust within their supply chains and value chains, frankly. So we're starting to get to the stage where we'll see the unit economics work for there to be a market compulsion for big end of town to go in this direction. We've seen it already happen in New South Wales. So in New South Wales government, some of your audience would know that AustCyber was instrumental in working with the New South Wales government to be able to put in place some minimum requirements around domestic capability. And so now domestic capability is a little bit of a nuance on sovereign capability, but suffice to say that domestic capability is about capability that's been, developed and delivered here. Whether or not that organisation that's done it is Australian owned is the distinction here. But in any case, we're now seeing a rollout in New South Wales, across New South Wales government and their entities, that at least 30% of the capability used within the ICT environment must be from domestic providers. So that's really set the benchmark. And, what we were able to achieve through that work was to demonstrate that the World Trade Organization's requirements through the free trade commitments and all of those kinds of things won't be infringed as long as we sit below around about the 40% mark. Depends on the capability type, but we get the picture. So now the baton really is being passed to the other state governments as well as the federal government to be able to really pick that up and believe in it. Not do it just to sort of look good, but actually do it because we do need the trust and confidence within our value chains and supply chains. And this is where that secret really does lie. So to write to ministers and to all members of parliament, it's really about focusing on the opportunity that comes from that. It is the trust quotient. It is the confidence in being able to have supply chain and value chain resilience, but also particularly for the backbenchers in all of the parliaments, it's absolutely about the job creation that can happen within their electorates, because we know that cyber capability really can be born from anywhere across the country. Now, there are some niche capability types that is particularly hard to do, for example, in Kalgoorlie, but we've got a great set of capabilities that can really be done from anywhere in the country. And we really want to enliven that. We want to show that cybersecurity as one of the key critical tech industries for the country is something that we're very good at, and it can generate a significant number of jobs, both direct and indirect.
I think we have to match also all of those jobs, all of those skills that we're trying to uplift, apart from all just going to sort of large corporates and the federal government or government positions. We talked about these verticals of space, manufacturing, all those other sort of key sectors that Australia is trying to build as a national strategy. We have to be able to fire them into those industries with cybersecurity knowledge. And I think that's where, and it doesn't have to be a monetary contribution from government. It can be, it doesn't even have to be tax offsets and the like. It just has to be facilitation, training, sort of from a business perspective. You always need a little bit of a help because you're busy enough running a business, let alone trying to expand. And I think there's a lot of avenues there that can be done at a national level as well. And if you can do it on Kangaroo Island, I'm sure you can do it in Kalgoorlie, right? That's
exactly right. Exactly right.
Now, the other one you had yesterday, maybe touch on women in cyber. How did that go? That's always a popular one. And yeah, I saw a lot of noise around that too.
Yeah, so we had 2 events this year around focusing specifically on diversity. So we had our networking event earlier in the week, which we spoke about. But then, yes, yesterday in South Australia through our node there, we had a collaboration between the South Australian node and the Australian Cyber Collaboration Centre, which I'm proudly a director of with their board. And, the sort of ecosystem there with AWSN, as well as a series of organisations in the public and private sectors that came together. And it was a sold out event. And what that was really focusing on is for those that have not come across security before or have kind of heard about it from a career point of view, was to be able to be in a room with a whole series of women who are working in cybersecurity to get a sense of what it is like to transition into cybersecurity and what the options are. And of course, we talk all the time here at AustCyber, and so many of our partners and colleagues do too, and I know you're a strong advocate for this, Chris, that the flexibility of cybersecurity for anyone, but in particular women, is fantastic. And as much as it's a 24/7 job in cyber to try and protect against the malicious activity, the types of skills that can be brought to bear in cybersecurity means that there are a lot of flexibilities that can be built into any job, particularly when the employer recognises the benefits of doing that. And so we're seeing a rapid, I guess, expansion of the different kinds of employment conditions that can be offered now through cybersecurity. And we don't like to speak positively about the pandemic, but there are a few benefits that have come from it. One, of course, is the fact that cybersecurity is having its time in the sun more broadly across the community in Australia, but also remote working is now a very large feature of the Australian landscape as it is in other Western countries. And this is going to really benefit how we start to really embed the skilling processes within cybersecurity. And to your point, we need those skills everywhere in the economy, not just in cybersecurity as a vertical.
Oh, hopefully it does assist sort of women coming in if they're more at home. I think from a family perspective, it should assist them as well. And there's no shortage of jobs. I mean, again, I keep looking at Seek, and there's no shortage of jobs out there. And as you say, the transition is there. Now, let's finish off. Otherwise, we will keep going all day because there's so many events. But yeah, today was a free day. So if anyone wants to get a sense of what AustCyber and the Australian Cyber Week was like, you had the RSA Conference 365 Innovation Showcase. You had AusInt Combine. Did you get any insights into that? I'm interested. We've been doing AusInt for years, and it looks like it's developing quite nicely as well. And you had some AusInt training.
We did, and we're always super proud to be able to provide anyone across the world, frankly, our events around being able to use open source intelligence as a training opportunity as well as a knowledge sharing opportunity is something that we have. We had almost 50% of the audience today in the training opportunity with AusInt Combine, from elsewhere in the world, because they know that the quality of the training that they can get through our events is so high. So the community day today was entirely free for everyone to attend. We had, I think it was over 370 people involved in the RSA Showcase 365 this morning. That was on
nice,
which was fantastic. So being able to expose 2 of Australia's sovereign providers in cloud security, which was SecureStack and peakhour.io, being able to get their exposure across an RSA audience. And, we continue to enjoy a fantastic relationship with RSA conferences in being able to do the innovation sandbox and innovation showcasing that we do with them, which is awesome. And then, of course, with the training today, we had over 1,000 people, Chris, do the training today from around the world.
You shouldn't have made that free then.
That's and this is part of that community piece is that, you're right. We have been doing it for a number of years now, and it really is another element of how AustCyber gives to that sort of sense of building community around cybersecurity, and also drawing attention to the misnomers, the misunderstood elements of what cybersecurity is, that ethical hacking and, ethical information sourcing is such a big part of how we do tackle the malicious cyber side of things and really push back on them. So AusInt for Good is a very, very strong part of what AustCyber stands for. And being able to work with partners like AusInt Combine in that is something that we're really proud of. And, providing the free training as well is something that we do deliberately to help people start getting prepared for National Missing Persons Hackathon, which of course I'm wearing the t-shirt from last year from. So we'll be running the next hackathon early next year, and we're really excited to be building up to that through the day that we had today. We also had, as part of the free day, Chris, we worked with Questacon to support them to be able to launch a new program that they got funding for under the 2020 cybersecurity strategy of the Australian government, to provide a cyber readiness program for teachers and for students at the senior level to be able to do that sort of one-to-many approach of getting STEM through cyber learning out into Australian schools, which complements the program, of course, that AustCyber helped to fund around the Australian Schools Cyber Challenge in the classroom, which has now actually had over 100,000 Australian school students go through that. Right. So to have Questacon launch a program, I sort of said, to colleagues, how excited are we as adults, let alone kids, being able to see cybersecurity through the eyes of Questacon? That's so cool.
Well, it's almost, again, I think I'm just getting old and grumpy, is that it's taken too long, but you're right, it's there. I will say we're seeing the same thing, maybe not with Questacon, but it is great to see Questacon taking it on. But space, the Festival of Space that we're running, we're getting a lot of engagement from schools. And again, I think that's a great thing to see. So I think we are comparing cybersecurity and space a little bit together as industries. And it looks like they're quite more advanced. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But just where cybersecurity was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, even 10 years ago, InfoSec days, you can see that rise where space is taking that follow through as well. So look, those sessions are available, although I don't think the OSCEN, I just tried, that was a one-off.
Yeah, that was a one-off, absolutely. But the RSA showcase, that will be available through the RSA YouTube channel early next week. And the Questacon event is available through their platform as well, through their website rather. But the training that was available today, you had to be there to win it.
Nice work.
So you had to turn up to take part in that one. But we will be providing much more to come. Great.
Well, look, otherwise you can go to cyberweek2021.austcyber.com. Otherwise, you can head to our channel, the Australian Security Magazine, Cybersecurity Magazine as well. But otherwise, just go to AustCyber.com. So, look, a full week of events. It's been quite a lot of fun covering it with you as well, Michelle. Thank you very much to your team and Tom there in the background who made a cameo appearance. It's great.
Well, thank you, Chris, and to your team. We've really enjoyed the partnership. As you say, it's been hugely productive, and to be able to do an exclusive partnership around the media for this with Cyber Week, we're so proud, and we can't wait to be doing more with you. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
No, very much enjoyed. Now, before we go, you've mentioned Hackathon, the 2022 outlook for you. What's your big events for 2022? I'm sure you've got something planned, but what are we going to be looking out for?
Well, of course, we will have Cyber Week again next year. And as we move back into in-person stuff, well, we've got a bit of pent-up energy here at AustCyber. So look out is all I can say. We will, of course, continue to do things online as the new world is, but we've got a lot of energy to get some new stuff happening around the in-person stuff. As part of our merger with Stone and Chalk, we're working on an emerging tech festival, which we're not going to tell you about when, so that others can't come in and try and take some of the space. But yeah, we will be working. We'll take all of the sort of, creds that we've got around delivering Cyber Week and apply that to an emerging tech festival next year. We've also, obviously, as you said, got Hackathon coming up early in the year. In terms of AustCyber more broadly, we really do truly have some very exciting projects that are on the horizon. And naturally, I actually can't say too much about them, but there's 2 in there that are actually going to literally blow people's socks off. They really will, Chris. And, I think that if you imagine how much work AustCyber has achieved over the past almost 5 years, we turned 5 on the 1st of January. And put that into, you just bottle all of that into something that is going to have generational national impact. And it's filling a gap around something that we don't have in our knowledge infrastructure for the industry at the moment. I want to get everyone thinking about what this could be. And then we've also got another exciting project that we're just working on with actually a whole series of different industry and government partners at the moment that we're hoping to announce in the first half of next year, that's also going to be dialing up some of the issues that we've talked about in Cyber Week and also between us today around things like targeted, focused support to startups and scale-ups in cybersecurity and how they actually can feed into the rest of the economy. It's going to be a big year.
Well, you're hard to keep up with, always enthusiastic, and always a pleasure to speak to, Michelle. So thank you so much. Like I said, we'll release this out. I think we'll do an edited version, but I'll keep Tom in there in terms of some way. But otherwise, it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll let you go and enjoy a coldie after you've finished a long week, and you can let the team knock off as well. But thank you very much, Michelle Price, CEO with AustCyber, on the conclusion of Cyber Week 2021. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thanks everyone in the audience and listening.
Good work. Okay, all the best. See you, Michelle. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, missed that. Okay. Now, thank you. Now, before we go, and thank you to Michelle and the AustCyber team. And I'm just going to do a couple of reports of the day. And this is another Australian startup that you would have heard of. Let me just walk through. So Casada, I can't remember the last time we spoke to Casada. I think they're off the back of a Series C funding round, but they've just released their 2021 State of Bot Mitigation Report. Let me just throw that up a little bit just to get a sense of what bots are doing across our websites. This is available on the marketplace, obviously under our report resources, but the negative impact of bad bots is significant across the business. 45% say bot attacks resulted in more website software and or IT crashes, so it's causing those crashes. 35% say bot attacks resulted in brand or reputational damage. And then I'll run down to the bottom there. I'm not a robot. 72% believe the customer experience on websites would be improved by the elimination of those captures. So check this one out. And I think I had one more, 15%. Even with all the time, resources and money spent, anti-bot solutions are not providing long-lasting protection. So only 15% of companies report that their bot mitigation or bot management solutions retained effectiveness a year after initial deployment. And this is really a good example of machine learning and how bots fight each other. The anti-bots and the legitimate bots are all fighting each other online and for a slice of your time. Now, importantly, Michelle mentioned sort of the procurement for government. This report just came out yesterday. This is the compliance with the New South Wales cybersecurity policy. Anyone in New South Wales, if you happen to be watching, I'd be very pleased if you are watching. Otherwise, you'll be watching the ICAC Commission, which would have just finished. Now, this is the takeaway conclusion. The cybersecurity policy is not achieving the objective of improved cyber governance controls and culture because, and there's a whole range of them. There's 6 points there. The CSP does not specify a minimum level for agencies to achieve in implementing the mandatory requirements or the essential 8 strategies to mitigate cybersecurity incidents. The New South Wales government has also adapted the essential 8 to theirs as well. Let me just click over to the key findings. Comparable jurisdictions require formal risk acceptance decisions where requirements are not implemented, though the New South Wales cybersecurity policy does not have a similar formal requirement. All of the participating agencies had implemented one or more of the mandatory requirements in an ad hoc and inconsistent basis. None of the participating agencies has implemented all of the essential 8 controls at level 1. That is only partly aligned with the intent of the mitigation strategy. And Cybersecurity New South Wales modified the Australian Cybersecurity Centre model for implementation of the essential 8. So not good reading. And I think this one here, we reviewed the data of 104 New South Wales agencies provided. The 104 agencies, including 9 audited agencies referred to in more detail in the report. The review of the 104 agency self-assessment returns submitted to Cybersecurity New South Wales highlighted that, consistent with previous years, there remains reported poor levels of cybersecurity maturity. So some of the recommendations there's not a lot of recommendations. There's only 6. And these are to monitor and report compliance, require agencies to report, identify and challenge discrepancies between those agencies, particularly on their maturity levels, more closely align their policy with the more current version of the ACSC model. Participating agencies should resolve those discrepancies And the last one there, Cybersecurity New South Wales and New South Wales governments agencies need to prioritise improvements to their cybersecurity and resilience as a matter of urgency. We'll report more on this one on Monday, but again, this is just hot off the press as of yesterday afternoon, and so that is available if you go to the Audit Office for New South Wales. Otherwise, we'll get to put that on our marketplace as well. We do have our Cyber Risk Leaders magazine being finalised, so if you want to get an article in or have one potentially ready, fire it through and we'll get that in. And otherwise, we'll see you on Monday morning, bright and early, for the start of the City Space Festival with our first session looking at national space capabilities here in Australia. Thank you to our platinum sponsor, Inmarsat, and this is part of our Space and Defence channel as well across the sector. So thank you so much. That's it from us at the Marketplace. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll be back on Monday with the National Space Capabilities panel. Have a good weekend.